Have you ever got a product and thought, geez, why didn't someone think of that before? Well, since owning my Model 3, I've had a few of those moments occur. So in this video, I'm going through my top 5 things that just make sense that Tesla featured on this vehicle, including the thing that I think is the top one should be included on every vehicle going forward from here on in. There's some things in life where people bring stuff to products and you're like, obvious, why wasn't that invented beforehand? In this video, I'm going through my top 5 things where I've asked that very question in my Tesla Model 3. I'll also briefly go through some of the things that didn't make it into my top 5, so if you disagree or have a number one of your own, feel free to drop it in the comments below. Doesn't have to be about a Model 3, could be about Tesla, in fact it could be any car, but try and keep it to EVs because we don't want any ICE cars on this channel. Now, if you haven't already done so, don't forget to follow the little Model 3 across the screen to that subscribe button if you're interested in anything to do with electric cars or Teslas, because I publish videos weekly. And if you'd like a little scenic picture of a Model 3 popping up in your Instagram feed each week, then follow me at Tesla Talk on your Instagram account. The link's in the description. Okay, first of all, on to things that didn't quite make my top 5. Boo! They're good, but they weren't quite good enough to make it in there. You can disagree. I welcome constructive criticism. Feel free to say so in the comments if you think they should have been in the top 5. And before anyone has a go at me and says Tesla didn't invent those things, okay, I hold my hands up. I don't know. All I'm saying is I wasn't aware of these elements until I got my Model 3. They might be in other makes and models, I don't know. But the cars I've driven so far, these things weren't included. So that's all I'm saying, okay? So I did actually struggle what to exclude here because I thought these were all 7 quite good things to go in the top 5. But obviously I can't fit 7 in the top 5, that just wouldn't work. But the first thing is the fact that in the EV, in the Tesla EV, you've got no lump in the back seat. You've got a completely flat floor in the back, which makes sense because you've not got a gearbox. Is that what goes in the lump normally? I don't actually know. In a combustion car, they've not had to put that in there, so they've managed to make the floor completely flat. Now that's not the same for all EV manufacturers. Sometimes they use that lump that they've had in the past to store batteries in, whereas actually it's a bit silly. If you can make the floor flat, it makes sense to do it because then, first of all, I found it is a lot easier to clean out because you've just got a continuous floor mat and you can just run the Hoover along and you've not got those little curved bits that you've got to get the Hoover into. Secondly, obviously for the passengers, it's most important. They can sit here with their legs flat on the floor, especially if you've got 2 broad-shouldered people either side of you. So the second thing that didn't quite make it into my top 5 was this, and it's the fact I've got absolutely nothing in front of me but the clear open road, and that's because they've moved the dashboard as such over to the left, and because I don't really look at my speedometer very often, I'm on autopilot so it's limited my speed anyway, or I'm just driving with the road conditions, which means I'm generally going slower. I don't need my speedo that often, and definitely not in front of me. When I do, it's just off to the left so I can glance at it. The rest of it just serves as a bit of a distraction, to be honest, because I don't need to look at my rev counter. I'm happy with my charge, all of those things. So yeah, moving the rest out of the way just makes sense to me. Now, the reason why it didn't quite make my top 5 are there certain circumstances when it would make sense to have something in front of me, and that's the navigation. I do miss the fact that that's over here and you have to glance away. Navigation down here would be helpful, I think. But other than that, most of the circumstances make sense, get it out of the way, but that's the reason it didn't quite make it into my top 5. So in at number 5, and as far as I'm aware, Tesla were the first to invent this, and this is the fact they used the area that used to have an engine in for storage. And hence the word frunk entering the English language. I know in the UK we probably should call it a fruit, but I prefer frunk, to be honest. And yeah, here you go. We've got storage space where the engine used to be. Now, although Tesla weren't the first to invent electric cars, I think they were the first to invent a frunk. Now, I think the fact that they've used this space for storage, whereas other EV makers don't tend to, highlights the issue that legacy automakers have when it comes to EVs. They still think with a combustion mindset, so this used to house electronics in the form of an engine, so they've put more electronics in it and they don't use it as a storage space. So like the Nissan Leaf, I think the Renault Zoe, they both have like their aircon units in there and it's packed full. Even the ID range that's been designed as an EV from the ground up still don't have a frunk. I think the i3 has, the BMW i3 has a really small one. But yeah, this makes sense to me. Why bother filling this with electronics when you don't have to? It's nice little extra storage. Now, I'll be honest, I don't use it very often, but the bonus of that is I then put loads of stuff I don't use very often in here so it doesn't clutter my boot up. So I've got like my charging cables, tyre inflator, jack mounts, warning triangle, things like that. So I just file it all in away there. My boot's completely tidy, job's a good one. There are some mainstream manufacturers that start to use the frunk a little bit more, like the Ford Mach-E, I think that's got a frunk, and then the Polestar, that's Polestar 2, that's got a frunk as well. So other manufacturers are catching on to it, but this just makes sense. If you haven't got an engine, use that space for something else. Okay, on to number 4, and from what I can tell, Tesla were the first to introduce this in the mainstream fashion, and that's over-the-air software updates. Exactly the same way as you get an over-the-air software update for your phone. From what I can tell, Tesla introduced this in 2012 when they needed to make some minor tweaks in the Model S, and I think they updated initially over cellular and then later on Wi-Fi got introduced as well. But they were the only mainstream car company to start over-the-air software updates. Now it's becoming mainstream with, I think, Ford are doing it, Volkswagen are doing it, Nissan maybe are doing it. It makes sense. If you find an issue with your car, you can just tweak it and solve it there and then without having to bring it into showrooms or garages to do it. And from Tesla's perspective, it's kind of essential because with their full self-driving and the fact they keep adding features constantly, there's no way you'd want to be taking your Tesla to a service center every 4 weeks to get it updated. For those that aren't familiar with Tesla, you generally get software updates every 4 weeks, and it'll add more functionality and quite often new features to your car. So since I've owned the car, I've had security features enhanced in the form of Sentry Mode added. I've had Netflix, traffic light recognition, auto park features. There's loads. Radio updates, navigation, games. There's just absolutely loads that Tesla add all the time. And every 4 weeks you're waiting for this software update because it's like getting free gifts each time. I don't know any other car manufacturer where your car improves over time as opposed to gets obsolete and out of date. Okay, this one might be a little bit controversial, but I actually like it. And that's in at number 3 is the fact that they don't have any buttons. I think that makes sense. If you look around the cabin, the only thing they have physical buttons for really are the windows and the doors. The rest of it is all controlled through this touchscreen here, apart from these 2 buttons here, which I'll come on to in a minute. But lights, windscreen wipers, radio, aircon, everything through here, generally. So why do I think that makes sense? Well, because Tesla keep adding new software features as we're going along, it means that they can change the buttons on the screen, change the layout to whatever fits with the new functions there to the car, without physical buttons actually becoming obsolete. Whereas with an older car, where you've got physical buttons, if they want to change it, well, the button still has the little logo on it for the aircon, or it has something else on it, and you can't physically change those buttons. So by having no buttons in the vehicle whatsoever, you can update the car. Coming on to the 2 physical buttons that we kind of have on here, and these are the scrolly wheels, they kind of adapt depending on what screen you're on in the software. So for example, if we go into the mirrors here, we can use that to control my mirrors up and down. If we go into the steering wheel, it will change my steering wheel up and down. If we go into the radio, it would adjust the volume up and down. So depending on what function you're on in the screen will vary what these buttons actually do. So for example, you can control your cruise control speed from there by flicking it left and right. I imagine from a manufacturing point of view as well, it makes life a lot simpler because there are way less buttons to actually manufacture and put into the dash and wire in. So less room for error and faults within the car. Right, on to the top 2, and it's a close one, and I had a little internal battle here about which one should be number 1 and which one should be number 2. But in at number 2, let me know if you disagree, is pin to drive. Now, I don't know when this was added. I think it was shortly after I got my Model 3 in one of the software updates. But when this came along, I was literally like, that makes complete sense. If you don't know what pin to drive is, it's basically the same as what you have on your mobile phone. So no one can use my car unless they know what the pin number is. So regardless whether they break into my house, steal my key, get in my car, and then go to drive away, they can't go anywhere because I've got pin to drive on it. Now it's optional, you can turn it off if you don't want to, similar to what you have on your phone. But like your phone, it pretty much renders the car useless even if someone gets hold of it. As far as I know, there's no workarounds as long as your Tesla account is secure, and I'm sure there's some genius that knows how to hack it. But to your average Joe car thief, it's going to render the car absolutely useless. To me, I was literally straight away like, why hasn't every car got this? This just seems complete sense that we've had it on phones since, what, 2010, if not sooner? I don't understand. And it doesn't matter whether you've got a touchscreen. Cars have radio buttons. You have to type in a button to activate your radio, don't you, sometimes if your battery's gone flat or something. So why isn't this on every single car? If someone can tell me, please let me know. So my number 1 feature that I think just makes sense is having your smartphone as the car key. Now don't panic if you don't have a smartphone because they do give you a car key, but if you just heard that pip in the background, that's the car locking. So we'll walk back to it now. Appreciate it, let's walk backwards so you can actually see my face because it's a bright sunny day. But as you walk away from the car, it locks itself. And then as we walk back to it, without nothing in my hands, you can just open the door and it's unlocked. And then we'll walk away again because I've got the item out of the car that I wanted to get. And then you'll probably hear a pip in the background again, and that signifies that the car's locked. Now, don't worry, if you don't want to wake your neighbours up when you come, there it was. If you don't want to wake your neighbours up when you come home, then you can turn that feature off. That's not a problem at all. You can also do it where your wing mirrors will fold away automatically, or you can leave them out. So it gives you peace of mind that it has actually locked. But in all the time I've been using it, it's not failed once, which is really handy. Tesla even will set it up for you before you go out the showroom. So you don't have to worry if you're not a technical whiz with smartphones, because Tesla sort that out for you. Now, you might be thinking, well, what if someone steals your phone, because then they could steal the car? Well, that's where the pin to drive comes in. It stops anyone doing that, which is genius. So yeah, that's my number one thing that I think makes sense in my Tesla Model 3, and that's to have your phone as the car key. Everyone's got a smartphone nowadays, so it just makes sense if you can to make that your car key. This should be in every car going forward. But what's yours? Is there anything I've missed? Because the Tesla does have a lot of little quirks, but they were just my top 5 things that I've noted. Let me know in the comments below what your number one thing is about your Tesla or EV that just makes sense. That's all for this week. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will see you soon.